Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. Each and every week, we bring you content and information that is surely to allow you to give an opportunity to really set the tone and the pace for daily living. Today, we're joined by some amazing guests who will enlighten us, inspire us, and share with us how to really get on a level playing field. Honestly, if you're doing what you've always done, then chances are you're getting some results that may look similar to the thing that you've always gotten. Now, that could be on the positive or the negative side of the spectrum. We want to do today a mid-year checkup, and we're joined by three amazing coaches: Charlotte Avery, family strategist; Pastor JT, faith and wellness coach; and Dr. Tierney, the level up coach. Welcome in, everybody. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hey, Dr. J.
It's good to see everyone. Let me tell you, as we get into this mid-year mindset, we're at July. Can you believe we've come 6 months through the year already?
I can't. The time's gone by too fast.
Wow. I know, it's going super fast. And, as we think about what this is going to look like for people, and we're saying, hey, it's mid-year, how are your relationships going? How are your business projects going? What does it look like for you to really, take stock in who you are as a person? This can really trip a lot of people up. And I want to start with Pastor JT today because, oftentimes we use faith as a way to help us balance and figure out how we're feeling spiritually and emotionally. And, we're moving through these various stages of growth and development. So Pastor JT, when you think about how you help people and how we can get set, what are some of the things that you see are important that people should have in their toolkit. So let's talk a little bit about toolkits.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Dr. J, and glad to be on. One of the things that I think that is extremely important to have in your toolkit is always have your goals readily available to make sure that you're moving in the right direction. Oftentimes we confuse movement with progress, and a lot of people are moving. As we have just said, time is moving, and a lot of people are busy as we're kind of getting back into integrating in what we believe is reality. But many of us are not seeing the progress that we really want to see, is because I believe that many of us operate without having our goals in front of us. And having your goals in front of you give you an opportunity to make real-time adjustments. As you mentioned, us being in July, if I could liken this to sports, think about halftime, football, basketball. Even if you happen to be losing going into halftime, the best coach, the best players make halftime adjustments to be able to come out in the second half and win. But if you are just there for the fun of the game and you're not there looking for the win, you'll just be happy just to be in the building and then wait for December 31st and then say, new year, new me.
That's a powerful statement. I'm sure that we can all agree that, we're in that space where we're looking at trying to make these halftime adjustments. Charlotte Avery, what are some of the things that you believe should be in our toolkit?
So I think a good detox should be in our toolkit. I think that, being in the midpoint of the year, I think that we've seen some things and learned some things in these past 6 months. And there might be some things that we need to detox from and let go of, whether it's social media, whether it's people, places, and things, and just really detoxing from those things that are not serving us, that are not helping us to grow, that are not lending itself to our own success. And so I think a good detox is really, really important.
A good detox. I could probably use one of those right now. I can say I tried to do better in my eating, in my walking. I tried to do better with the type of people that were in my space. And oftentimes it's hard to release yourself from those things that are comfortable and that are familiar. Dr. Tierney, when you think about how we engage with each other, what are some of the things that we do need in our toolkit as we prepare this next 6-month foundation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, as always, Dr. Jacquie. So the thing that I say we need in our toolkit is a deeper understanding of self. Specifically, we need to have a deeper understanding of what is our comfort zone and what are our fears. Oftentimes when we are, as Pastor JT said, we're kind of in the game and, we're going with emotion. Life comes at us fast. And so oftentimes we'll react out of that place that how we've always reacted or responded and shown up, and we won't realize that we're really in our comfort zone. And our comfort zone, the boundaries of our comfort zone usually is our fear. What are we afraid of? What are the things that we are, kind of timid to step out into? We're not really taking those calculated risks that could really get us to our end goals and help us to win the game, so to speak, or get to that next level, because we're really afraid of it and we're playing in our comfort zone. But the thing is, nothing grows in the comfort zone. Success doesn't bloom in the comfort zone, but we won't often know that we're in the comfort zone because we haven't just really done a deep evaluation of us. How are we showing up? Where are we right now? What do we need in this new season? Answering the question, what do I want to be when I grow up? And so making sure that we have that deep understanding of self will dictate how we then show up in the second half of the game.
The second half of the game for a lot of us is extremely important. And I want to unpack that just a little bit, because as each of you were talking, the phrase that we hear a lot is faith over fear. Go anyway, do it anyhow, no matter what's going on with you emotionally, socially, spiritually, financially, or physically. We always say, just show up. Charlotte, why is it important for people to show up for themselves and to show up in the spaces where they really need to be?
Oh, that's such a really great question, Dr. Jacquie. One of the reasons why it's important for people to show up for themselves is because, I am of the perception that if I'm not happy, then the people who need me and the people who I serve aren't going to be happy, because they're not really going to get the best of me. And for me, it's important for people to get the best of who we are. No, we may not always be in our optimal levels, but as we are serving our families, as we're serving our clients, as we're, serving our audiences, it is so important for us to be emotionally well people, to be emotionally intelligent people, and to really, deep dive into who we are, so that we are clearly aware of self, knowing that, as I am pouring into me, and the more I pour into myself, the overflow of the joy and the abundance and all of the positive things that I'm doing that's taking care of me is then going to pour out onto those who I'm serving, whether it's my children, my spouse, my clients, just all the people, and so we need to take a really good look at ourselves, but we also need to make sure that we're full of abundance and joy and happiness and things that really fulfill us, so that we can also, fully function purposefully out into the world.
Pastor JT, this deeper dive that we're asking people to take, how do you select where to start? Because oftentimes figuring out how to prioritize first, second, third, relationships, money, family, it gets tricky. What do we do?
I think I go back to what Dr. Tierney said about self-awareness. I think we get so busy in being shaped by others, being influenced by others. I mean, you think about it now on social media. It's a whole business model of people being influencers, and their job is to influence culture. And we spend the bulk of our lives being pushed and pulled and prodded by other people, other people's expectations, other people's thoughts. There are so many kids now who have grown up and who are probably in debt with student loans because they spent time on a campus going after a degree that maybe their parents wanted them to have. And again, I believe that it boils down, the optimal thing is self-awareness. Because if you don't know who you are, the danger of it is you'll become like Play-Doh. And I'm showing my age, but back when we were children, we played with Play-Doh. And you can make Play-Doh into whatever you wanted it to be. You can make it into a flower pot. You can make it into a person. You can make it into a ball. You can make it into a bat. But at the end of the day, no matter what you made it, it always had your fingerprints on it. And the dangerous thing is that somebody else's fingerprints are on you, making you be something that you don't even really want to be yourself.
Ooh, y'all better hold on to that. I hope you guys are taking notes out there. Dr. Tierney, that was a whole mouthful that he just said. But when we consider all of the options and opportunities that are out there for us, how do you pick the one?
So this is actually one of the first exercises that I do with my coaching clients, and they hate it. I'm just going to tell you. And I ask a simple question, who is Dr. Jackie? Who is Pastor JT? Who is Charlotte? Don't tell me the roles. Don't tell me the titles. Don't tell me what you do. Who? We get so wrapped up in what we do. And I love what Pastor JT said about the Play-Doh, because that's what we end up doing. We become whatever it is that we think we need to do. And I get clients all the time, just help me do this. And so I pull them back into the who, because the essence of what it is that you were designed to do, what you were created to do, what you are uniquely gifted to do is locked in your who. But if we don't spend that time tapping into who we are, then this is really just a ripe breeding ground for that fear that we were talking about earlier, because you're afraid because you're not measuring up to what they're doing or who you think that they are. When if you're really just so wrapped up into discovering who you are, then you won't even care about what they're doing or who you think, that they are, because you'll be busy discovering who you are. So that's really the the jump off point that I use for my clients in order to get everything that you want in the external. It all comes from that internal place of discovering who you are.
I hope that everybody is out there taking notes, putting it in their pen, pad, their digital devices. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about a few things that are sort of tripping us up, because as I think about how I move into this next half of the year, I have literally heard 3 things that were spoken. I need to take a self-assessment. I need to look at how to detox my life, but I also need to figure out how to have a halftime plan. When we come back after the break, we're going to unpack this and do a deeper dive into how do we move ourselves forward into balanced living, up next after the break.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you have heard, there are certain things in life that we need to place ahead of other things. I know it's not easy. You've got 1,000 things on your plate. You've got spouses, you've got significant others, you've got kids, you've got parents, you've got grandparents, you've got big plans for your life. This is a great time to do a mid-year checkup, figuring out where you want to go, what your life should look like, and how do you design it from this moment on. Welcome back, everyone. I tell you the truth. It is literally mind-blowing to me, the amount of things that I now have on my plate, even in the midst of this pandemic. For some reason, I thought that my next new normal would be a little bit lighter, but that has not turned out to be the case. Charlotte, as you are looking at your priorities and you're balancing out your family, you got a kiddo headed to college. How are you managing and mastering your emotions? Because oftentimes we can't make some decisions because our emotions are so grand that they keep us from having a starting point.
Well, I have to tell you, this season of my life is so transitional because, not only is my son going to college, but, I have a daughter who's going into high school, and I have a son who's going into middle school. And you know what? I have been trying to find my own time to really process what this next season of life looks like. And so for me, I'm always trying to just steal away moments so that I can really deal with my own emotions, especially about my firstborn going to college. That's a huge deal. And for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at baby pictures and I'm just looking at all the things and trying to make sure I'm spending quality moments with him. Not that I hadn't done it before, but I'm just like, wow, in a sneeze, he's going to be gone. And so for me, I'm just, I give myself permission, to deal with my happy places. And I give myself permission to kind of deal with my sad places, what it's going to be like with him not being here and all of his crazy foolishness and, all the things. And then, my daughter getting ready to go to high school, and then, one getting ready to go into middle school. And it's a lot for me. I'll be very honest. It's a lot for me to process. And so I just give myself permission, if I have moments when I'm in the shower and I just want to cry, because for me, the shower is a good place to cry. I just take moments to do that. And I just say, what, this is my reality. This is where we're going. And I just try to take a good inventory of where I am in my emotions. And sometimes if I have moments of where I feel like I'm acting out, why am I doing that? Am I doing it because I'm tired? Am I doing it because I'm feeling sad? And, just all the different things. And so I just really try to be honest, really bluntly honest about how I feel and where I am in this season of life, to be true to my feelings so that I can, so in being true to my own feelings, I can also be true to those around me and sharing my feelings. Because if I don't know where I am, then they can't help me to process the next season of my life, because in our family, it's not even just the next season of my life, it's the next season of our lives.
So let me ask you another question, because as a mom of 7, a wife, an amazing family strategist, something that you were saying made me think of a term called good grief. And I think that sometimes people don't really know how to assign good grief to the happy times. With you having 7 kids and each of them is going to a different grade level, you do have good grief. It's the joy and the pain of them going up the ladder. Can you share for our audience how to process good grief?
So, I think for me, in an effort to process it, is really being able to feel it. You have to be able to know where your feelings are. You have to be able to be true to say, you know what, this is happening. Like, I can't change the fact that these people are growing up in my life, right? I mean, I birthed all of them and that's wonderful, but I can't change the fact that they're no longer babies. But what I can do is rejoice in who they are and who they are becoming in every stage and every level of their lives. And when I look at good grief, I'm just like, oh my gosh, my kids are growing up. And then I get a spark and I'm like, but look who these amazing people are that have been gifted to me for, 18 years or longer or whatever. And so for me, I have my moments and I'm like, oh gosh, but then I'm like, but goodness, this is like really amazing. Like, I look at Lim and I'm just like, man, I saw this little picture of him with his little hat on and everything. And then I see him in his cap and gown and I'm just like, oh, I miss these moments, because I believe that as parents, we do have moments when we're like, oh, I miss when they were so small and I miss when they're so adorable. And now my adorable small people are now these handsome, intelligent, beautiful people who are just moving out into the world. And so, yeah, there are those moments of, oh man, I wish I could go back. But then it's also the joy in knowing, who they are becoming and who they are, knowing that, you know what? I've made right choices and wise decisions with my children for them to be exactly who they are. And that's what I've been called to do, is to train them up in the way that they should go, and to see that they're actually doing that. It is sad sometimes, but then it's like really rewarding also. So it's being able to see the reward even in the grief.
Thank you for sharing that information, as so many parents are getting ready to have their children go to different ages and stages of growth and development. I want to ask this question to Dr. Tierney, because as a Level Up life coach, you're constantly pushing people to see greater, to see better, to look at the brighter side of things. Dr. Tierney, in helping people discover how to level up in this mid-year checkup, what are some of the things that you say people should just leave in the past? Because I know a lot of us tried to bring some pre-pandemic living into this new normal that we're having, and it's not working at all.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real good one. So I'm going to answer that question from a 5,000 foot level, because what I need to leave in the past is not what you need to leave in the past. It's not what she needs to leave. It's not what he needs to leave. So I think the answer more so is how do we identify what it is that we need to leave individually, And I want to go back to something that Charlotte Avery said, being able to feel it. Often we don't give ourselves that moment to actually feel what it is. We run past it. Y'all, I know I got time for that. I got to get to work. I got to get the kids out the door. So we don't allow ourselves to sit and say, wait a minute, where am I right now? What am I feeling right now? And not allowing our feelings to become the drivers. Think of our feelings and our emotions like the indicators in your car. So just like the light will come on to say, okay, your engine is running hot, or your tires are low, or, your gas is getting on empty. Our emotions are those indicators that tell us, hey, your temperament is running a little hot, or your energy levels are a little low, right now, or you're kind of running on empty and you need a little self-care to refuel and revive, you. So when we take that moment to check in with ourselves, see where our emotions are, what are they telling us? Then we're better able to see, okay, what is it that's no longer serving me in this season? Something that might have served you in the past season, in the last season to get through the pandemic, a real practical one. I thought those cookies were serving me in the last season because they was just calming my nerves. But now I'm in this season and it's like, sugar, they are not serving you. You need to leave them cookies in the last season, But it could be things like comparison. It could be things like self-doubt. It could be things like procrastination or any other self-sabotaging behaviors that we might have picked up, during the pandemic or during the lockdown because they served us in that moment. They were a little comforting, they helped us. It might be just the amount of time we spend on social media. It might be the amount of time we spend watching YouTube or it could be anything. But the thing that we have to do is do that assessment, see what are you feeling right now? Is that thing serving you, in this season? And is it serving you to help you to get to where you want to go? So going right back to what Pastor JT said, if you have your goals set, and you know exactly where it is that you're wanting to go, then is that thing helping you to get there? Those cookies were not helping me to get to my goals. So I had to let them go, But is that comparison helping or is it a hindrance? That's how you can tell what it is that you need to leave in this season so that you can make it, to your next level and succeed.
Discovering how to be a success in life, it looks in a lot of different ways for a bunch of different people because we are consistently making changes and making strides toward those goals that we want to attain. Now, I have to say, I'm a person of faith, and it is the prism of my faith by which I make a lot of my decisions. And so this question that I have of Pastor JT is going to sound a little strange for some people, but as a faith-filled person, I am still triggered by a lot of things, and I am annoyed by many things, people, places, and things. And I do have to check myself so that I don't fall out of the character for which my purpose was created. So Pastor JT, my question for you today, as we're talking about this mid-year checkup, do you find value in people being able to weigh their faith and how they interact and engage with other people in their relationship with God as an indicator to how they're doing?
Yes, I definitely believe it to be a great indicator. Kind of going back to what Dr. Tierney said and what Charlotte said, I think even as it relates to our faith, sometimes we miss the fact that we are human beings. We kind of get so caught up in doing that we have transformed into human doings. Now, that sounds crazy, but that's typically who we are. We're not human beings. And the operative word in beings is be. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, I believe that we are forced to be a lot of things for a lot of people, and we miss being what we need to be for ourselves. And then that's dangerous because now we get to those moments where we are tiptoeing at that verge of possible explosion or that verge of possibly releasing something that we have been saved from, but we still know the address of how to get back to it. But I think that if we kind of look at our faith, am I praying as I once did? Am I meditating as I once did? Am I reading as I once did? And then I start to ask myself, has this distance from my daily practice of wholeness and well-being and spirituality, has that taken me away from a place to where I'm now off center? And it's almost like from a person of faith, being in line with our faith is almost like a car being aligned. The moment that that car gets out of alignment, it starts to pull in the opposite direction. And so when you feel that pull, where you are being pulled in directions, where you're responding in a way that you wouldn't have responded when you are now more emotional than you would have been in the past, you have to ask yourself, really, what in the world is causing me to gravitate to this? And the very answer may be, I'm out of alignment, and I may need to do a spiritual checkup and get back to my square.
Being out of alignment. I want to ask each of our guests if they would give, as we go into our next break, some closing thoughts about this particular segment, because sometimes it's really difficult to find your center. Some of us, it takes longer than others, and some of you still haven't found it. And I'm hoping that as we're talking today and discussing these things, it gives you an opportunity and a space to be able to say, I can do this. I can balance my life. But you have to be willing to take the reins in your own life. You can no longer allow other people just to lead you here and there and doing whatever. You have to have a stake in the game. Charlotte Avery.
So I love everything that I'm hearing, because one thing for me, what I keep hearing is going back to self, and going back and taking a really good inventory of you. And going back to self is not being selfish at all, but it's making sure that, you know what, when you're checking in with you, that, you know, and you're in a good place and you're taking an inventory of self, then, you know, you can now be, you know, more available emotionally, and, you know, with your time, your talents, and your gifts for all those around you. And so, you know, I feel like in our conversation, it really is going back to self-awareness, to self-prioritization. Because honestly, I feel that if I'm not taking care of myself and doing what I'm supposed to do for me, then I am being selfish and not being self-serving to others.
Dr. Tierney.
So in thinking about balance, the way that I coach my clients to find their optimal balance, I divvy it up across what I call the big six. And so these are the 6 key areas of your life. That's professional, relational, emotional, spiritual, financial, and wellness. And so when we are doing an assessment, because balance is not something that we can just set it and forget it, you know, because life keeps changing, our balance is going to constantly kind of shift, you know, and so as long as we're keeping an eye on those big 6 areas, which basically encompass all of the areas of our lives, then we're able to really find what it is that we need to tap into. In some seasons, you might be amping out on professional and you might be ignoring your spiritual, or you might be in church every time the church door is open, but you are not tapping into that emotional, you know, or relational piece of you. So looking at the big 6 and really assessing, okay, where am I? What do I need in this season? And then bringing your balance in that way. And if you need help, just call me. We get that balance together.
She'll level y'all up, everybody. Make sure you check out drtierney.com. She will definitely level you up. Pastor JT.
As I mentioned before, my mom, her fingerprint is all over me, but she was a teacher for 40 years. She's since retired. And one thing, and I always ask questions. I was always inquisitive. Sometimes to my detriment, I asked too many questions at the wrong time. But this day I asked a question because as she took attendance, she never allowed the students to say here. She would force them to say present. And so I asked my mom, I say, Mom, why won't you just accept here? Because she was my teacher in the 4th grade. And she said, because it's dangerous, Jamel. She said that some people are here, but they're not present. And I think that that's one of the things that I would say is needed more than anything, is being present, being in this moment, not running from the moment, but seeing what the moment is attempting to teach you. Sometimes when we feel agitated in the moment, when we feel restless, it's actually a teaching moment. And it's not a moment for flight, but it's a moment for forward progression. One of the things that I've mentioned before is that we put a lot of focus on mental health awareness during that mental health awareness month. And really all we do is come out with a ribbon. And then we go back and we act as if that those issues aren't still there. But oftentimes when we are hard pressed to really find ourselves being present, we found ourselves too far in the past, or we found ourselves too far in the future. And one way that we're able to see those play out from a clinical standpoint, I believe depression has us in the past attempting to right something that happened that we really don't have access to, or guilt typically is in the past. or we're submerged with anxiety, which is living too far in the future. But I believe that if we get present and just live in the moment and allow what we have learned to help us in the moment, it will prepare us for the moments as we move forward.
Absolutely. This talk has really enlightened me about a few things. And as we prepare to go into the break, please remember that self-care is not selfish, that having a level of self-awareness allows you to engage with yourself more frequently and more often. But most importantly, making certain that we are aware that mental health is a daily journey. When we come back after the break, I want to take a serious pause because, you know, there's some things that we've been delivered from that we seem to keep going back to when we're back after the break.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And I'm going to tell you, this conversation today has been eye-opening. Literally, we do get too comfortable in new comfort zones. But there are a few of us who keep going back to things that we have been delivered from. And that is, let me tell you, a very dangerous place to be. We've all made continuous strides coming through this pandemic, but yet some of us are still comfortable being in our home. We are even more so isolating because we're fearful of what's outside. We're paying too much attention to the news. We're paying too much attention to social media and not paying enough attention to what our physical, mental, and spiritual selves need. I want to talk to our audience now about some of the dangers of not taking first steps. Welcome back, everyone. You know, it's difficult to figure out how to take a first step. And I want to ask Charlotte Avery a little bit about what should a first step be. Realizing that we've got kids, we've got grandparents, some people have moved people into their homes because we're in a very strange place as a society. But what does a first step look like to finding balance and mental levity?
First steps for me are really looking at priorities and really looking at, you know, what are the things that are really, really significantly important, not the things that are keeping me busy. So when I take first steps, you know, I look at all of the things that are going on. And for me, you know, whenever I'm starting to feel just really overwhelmed or whatever, that's always a sign for me that I need to first take a step back and take a look at everything that's happening around me. And then I need to say, you know what is it that I need to eliminate that's going to take away my overwhelm? So usually for me, overwhelm is a sign that I need to take a first step in eliminating something. And I have to tell you, just with the busyness of my life, you know, being a wife and a mom of 7 kids and doing all the things that I do, usually when I'm taking first steps, it always has to do with the elimination of something, because I always find that when I eliminate something that is not serving me or serving my family, then I'm able to move and feel differently, right? And so I'll give you, for instance, so like, you know, our family is really, really busy and our kids are always doing activities and things of that nature. Well, one thing the pandemic taught me and showed me and our family is the fact that, you know what, we don't have to be so busy in doing things. You know, it really helped us to reevaluate, you know what, are we going to continue doing these things? Are we going to take a step back and say, no, I'm not doing this? So for me, first steps always, it usually comes from my level of overwhelm. And then I usually start crushing that overwhelm with elimination of things.
Yeah, trying to prioritize what to eliminate is one of the big areas that often trips me up, because I recognize for myself, and audience, you may identify with this as well, is when I have to think about it too much, when I have to try to shuffle too many things around in order to make a thing happen. That typically means I shouldn't be trying to do it, because it's not going to fit. It's just going to make me feel stressed. And I have literally worked very hard to live a stress, not less, as in not having it, but a stress lessening life in a sense of not being able to consistently have a lot of stress going on around me. Pastor JT, when we think about how do we engage with people, and this is from a conflict perspective, because oftentimes we want to do a thing and then other people don't want to do a thing, and then there's a whole blow up thing. How do we balance our relationships and communications with other people so that there's harmony and everyone getting a win-win?
That's a good question. But you said a word that I believe is the fuel behind the fire. Emotions. Mm-hmm. I think that at the end of the day, you can have some tough conversations. You can confront an issue without being confrontational. I think that when we start to apply emotions to it, then it begins to fan the flame. And oftentimes, before we know it, we've ended up now talking about something that doesn't even have anything to do with the initial thing. And I think that that's one of the things I always say this, even in relationship coaching. I believe that there's nothing that can't be talked about. No matter, even if there is a marital relationship that comes to an end, while this may not necessarily be the reason that is associated with the divorce, I think that if we really be honest, it's lack of communication. We didn't talk about it. Or when we talked about it, we did not go into the conversation looking for resolution. If we go into it looking for resolution, we may not necessarily come out with everything that we intended for it to be. But if we come in believing that we will come to the table and leave from the table with a new way of doing things, a new perspective, then both of us win. But if one person is just going in wanting to get something off of their chest, then now the other person is left to bear the weight of what was on your chest. And so the only thing that we're doing is just passing weight from one person to the next, and we're not dealing with the real issue.
Mm-hmm. Now, something you just said made me think of microaggressions. And you said there's a way to confront without being confrontational, sort of like that backhanded compliment. Oh my God, this is so amazing. And then you say, it's about time you did something right. I mean, how, Pastor JT, do you deal with those types of undertones in language that continue to fan the flames of discord?
Right. And so this is one of the things that I would say, Dr. Jacquie. I believe that the very first thing at the beginning of this, we have to look at the value of the relationship. Because now if we are already in a relationship where our presence is devalued or undervalued, everything that we say now is going to either be received in a problematic way, or it's going to end up with us being confrontational. When you value the relationship, you got to think about it. If it's a person I have gotten extremely comfortable with, right, the conversation with them is totally different than the conversation that I would have with Oprah. because I value Oprah, but now the question is, because even from a relationship standpoint, and some of our viewers may be on, I believe that it is a huge slap in the face that you can get more respect, or you can give more respect at your job to your boss than your mate that you share life with. And it kind of goes back to what Dr. Tierney was saying, is that we put so much emphasis in what we are doing that we would protect doing our job rather than being a husband or wife. And we understand that those undertones, I believe that that's the very first thing, because for me, and this is just kind of how I float, but for me, I have already evaluated the relationship, and I only have people in my circle that bring value to my life. So I know when we talk, there is no undertones. They're helping me to get over some things in life and get through some areas in life. So the very first thing may have to happen is, who have you allowed to have access to your bowl of Cheerios that can talk to you that way in the first place?
Now, that's a powerful statement, because you do have to have people in your space where you're able to say, okay, give it to me, like just literally let me have it, and you not be offended, because there's no ulterior motive in that relationship. I want to pop back to Charlotte Avery for a moment, because at beingcharlotteavery.com, Charlotte has a book entitled Tone of Voice, Tone Down. I know she's going to tell me the real title because I screw it up every time I say it, but that's the part that resonates with me. I need to watch my mouth and my tone. Charlotte Avery, when we're talking about how to have conversations with people without being confrontational, what does that look like when you have so many personalities in all of our spaces?
Oh my goodness. So in my book, The 40-Day Tone of Voice, Tone Down, How to Transform Your Relationships One Octave at a Time. I wrote this book because I'm a recovering yeller. Okay. And so, I realized that I had tone of voice issues. I realized that my mouth and my body language was causing damage to the people that I love the most. And I love what Pastor JT said, as far as being able to have better relationships with people outside your home than you do with the people in your home. And that's one thing that in our household, I'm like, no, you're not going to share something with somebody outside of our house that you're going to be selfish with your sibling. Like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to treat people better outside of our home than you do with the people inside of our home. But the reality of it is that, and especially in our house with so many different personalities, our children, everybody in this house, all 9 of us have a different bent, right? And so I know that the way that I may talk to one of my children, I may not be able to talk to another one of my children that way, because it's going to impact them differently. So in our home it's loud in here. The volume can be out of control sometimes, but I always have to remember, who I'm dealing with and how I'm dealing with them, knowing that I can't deal with everybody the same way. I can't talk to everybody the same way. I can't discipline everybody the same way, because everybody has a different bent. So for me, I'm always asking myself, first of all, am I treating everybody in this house the way that I want to be treated? Am I respecting everybody in this house the same way that I want to be respected? Because as parents and older people, sometimes we can kind of have power struggles with our kids, because I am older, I've lived this life longer, and I'm taller than you. That's not my story anymore, because there's only 2 people in this house who I'm taller than now, right? So when it comes to these types of things, I always have to remember, who I'm dealing with. Am I using sarcasm? Am I yelling? Am I being too hard, with somebody? And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is, when it's talking about people differences and things of that nature, I heard Les Brown say this one time. And so this is something that I've taught my children when it comes to dealing with people. And this even deals with dealing with people in our home is, are you practicing OQP? Are you practicing OQP? Only quality people. Because if you're dealing with only quality people, then like with Dr. Jacquie, what you said, as far as, being able to have the people in your life who can just give it to you and tell you the truth, those are the people. If they're only quality people, and if you're only a quality person, then you will be safe getting that constructive criticism or somebody telling you about you. And so in our household, like my children, I give them permission to tell me about me as long as they're being respectful, because I know that they are quality people. One, because I've trained them and raised them to be that, but they know that I want what's best for them, and they want what's best for me too.
I think that everything that you said is extremely important, and it lends to this conversation about how to have relationships, our children, our loved ones, the people that we have in our family, and even people some outside of the family. They're not cookie cutter models. We have to be intentional about how we relate and engage with other people. It helps us to have that level of balance that when we're walking into another person's space, we know exactly how to treat them. Dr. Tierney, when it comes to treating people the way they need to be treated, it can be delicate because oftentimes people don't see us in the light that they should. But in your work in dealing with individuals, not only in teaching them to level up, but having self-awareness, helping them take this really close introspective look, how do you guide them to gauge who's good for them as you're growing them to the next stages of their life?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So one of the things that I tell my clients and I teach my clients is that we shape people's listening for us. Okay? So the key thing here is how you treat you is how you will treat them. And it is also how you will allow them to treat you. So if I have this negative self-talk and, oh, you're not enough, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, then that is what I will pour into other people. And that's how I will then handle the people that God has gifted to me. Because sometimes we have the right people around us, but we'll mishandle them. You know, in other instances, if that's my negative self-talk and then someone comes along and they're like, yeah, girl, you need to lose some weight. You need to, you know, I won't know that that's a toxic person because they're in agreement with what I'm telling myself, you know. So it all goes right back to what we were saying earlier. And you have to look at you. How are you talking to you? How are you handling you? And earlier, Jackie, when you said about, Dr. Jackie, when you said, when we will start on something and then it's like, we'll go back to how things, you know, used to be or how we were before. You know, we have to understand that when we're in that transition, we're transitioning from the old, what we've done for years, you know, to the new, what we want to do now and thrive and getting to that next level. We have to understand that we're in this transition where we're fighting against something that we've either done, told ourselves, allowed for years. And we're going into this new space that's unfamiliar. It's uncomfortable. We're not quite sure what's going to be over there. And so sometimes our default is to go back. You know, it's the devil's, you know, right? You know, so I'll go back to that thing because at least I understood it. At least I had friends. At least, you know, I had a boyfriend or whatever it is. We'll go back to that place instead of pressing through that discomfort in order to get to that next level that you really want and that God intended. I talk about this I dedicate a whole chapter just to talking about friends, you know, and the people that you allow with you on your level up journey, you know, and this is critical because when we don't have the right people around us or when our picker is broken because we haven't done our internal self work and we have the people around us that we don't need to have around us, not only will it mess up our balance, it will mess up our journeys to getting to that next level and it will make it harder for us, you know, to get there. So what I train my clients to do is to think in baby steps. Think baby steps, you know. This is not something that we just, you know, again, going back to the cookies example. We don't just jump up and say, you know what, I'm going to stop eating all cookies, no sugar. I'm going to go to the gym every day for 2 hours. You know, we're not going to be able to sustain that. We're not going to be able to sustain these large, grand, you know, things while we're in this transition. So think baby steps. What's one thing you can do today that will positively impact you tomorrow? What's one thing, you know, okay, I'm no longer going to call myself fat. You know, that's out. I'm not going to do that anymore. In fact, I'm going to call myself beautiful every day. I'm going to listen to that Mary J. Blige song every day and say, good morning, gorgeous, until it gets down in my shanana. You know, that's a baby step, something that we can do to help impact how we see us, how we see the world around us, how we then start to treat the people that God has gifted to us, and how we start to remove those people that are no longer serving us in this new season of where we're going.
Thank you for sharing. When we come back after the break, we're going to allow the group to give us an opportunity to give us a takeaway that you can put into your toolkit so you can launch into living a balanced life when we're back after the break.
louvers with no seats. These are the only bins that will accommodate larger rollerboards.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. You eat every food 10.
Oh my God.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. I hope that you were listening. I know that you got some great tips that are in your toolkit so that you can begin to move your life forward. Not everything that we do is about other people. Sometimes we have to step back and put ourselves first. I'm inviting everyone back to give us a takeaway that will allow you to begin to see yourself as the most important person in your life. Charlotte Avery.
So for me, in order for me to see myself in my, the most important way is really to make sure that I am making myself a priority. I need to do that. Self-prioritization is everything to me because I am the thermostat. Excuse me. I am the thermostat for my family. And so I'm really the one who sets the temperature in the house. And so I just believe that everybody needs to practice self-prioritization of themselves first, and then be able to take care of everyone else.
Dr. Tierney.
Who you are is more important than anything that you'll do. So start focusing again on who you are. Who is fill in your name? What are your unique gifts, talents, characteristics, skills, those things that God uniquely gifted you to do? Because that's where you will find what you have been created to do. That's where you would then start to break away from your comfort zone, break away from the fear, break away from the influencers or the things you see on social media, and really tap into who you are. That's where the magic happens. So take that time to really tap into you and really connect with you. Spend that time doing that.
Pastor JT.
I would say this, and I'm bringing a prop today, but this empty bottle, this is how many of us are living our lives. We're just existing. And we have reduced self-care to just go and get our nails done or a massage. We have to make a point to care for ourselves every day, because you are an amazing vessel that God wants to use in the earth realm to help somebody else become all that they could be. But he's waiting on you to accept the fact that you have been playing it safe. So if you've been sleeping on yourself, it's time to get out of bed and live the best life that God has ever created for you.
Thank you for sharing. In my reflection today, I just want to know how you guys are doing. When you watch this episode, I want you to type in the chat, send us a text, reach out to us, and let us know how you're doing on your balanced living self-care journey. I can honestly say that I am taking more time each and every day to do the things that make me happy, that bring me joy. And one of the things that I discovered is you're not going to make me feel guilty. No one is going to make me feel guilty. I'm not going to make myself feel guilty about taking time for me. And perhaps that's the reason why you're not doing for yourself, because you feel bad that you didn't invite so-and-so, or you didn't call a friend, or you didn't, take on a walking buddy, or you decided to go shopping alone or lunch alone, or do whatever it is that you just needed to do for yourself, by yourself. Please don't let anyone make you feel guilty about loving you the way that only you can love yourself. Be well, everyone, and thanks for watching. Bye now.